Welcome back, gamers. In preparation for Shady Torby's 4th Oni Rim Universe game coming out, I'm going to review the wonderful game Sylvion. This is a one-player game by Shady Torby, which I've done some other reviews on. You can watch those at some of my other videos, Oni Rim and Urbian. Of course, if you already know how to play Sylvion, you know what's in the box, you can click on it to jump right to my conclusions. Otherwise, let's find out what's in the box and how you play the game.
It's board games with PeedMont.
Inside of Sylvion, you'll find, first of all, once again, this is a really cool, really sturdy little box. The artwork's really neat also. But just like in the new Oni Rim expansion, you'll have a little, kind of almost a decorative box that gives you a little experience. Here you see a couple flaps of this burning fire. Oops, I'm trying to rip it from the wrong side here. And with little tabs open up. And then you pull down the forest to reveal this really kind of neat, let's see if I can get it here, the Book of Rules. And this is a really pretty, really nicely done book, full color, really nice, high quality stuff. Explains everything all the cards do, a couple variants, what some of the expansions do, everything you need to know. Really nice. Additionally, you're going to find, you have, just like in the Oni Rim, you'll find a little token. This is just kind of neat. You know, they're really cool. They add a little variant to the game, but really I just set them out because I think the kind of avatars of these are that cool. Rawr. And then you're going to find a couple decks of cards. These might have been shuffled up since I played, but originally it was just 2 decks of cards, one of which are things like this red deck, which are the bad guys that you'll be shuffling through, and some of the expansion cards I have here on the side. I have that in that same deck, and then the other deck is kind of special for when the fire bad guys upgrade. Some of your trees that are going to be the surrounding and also play part of the drafting mechanism, and then the protagonist deck of cards. Now, Sylvion is a little different from some of the other Oniverse games, the first 2 at least, where you're in Oni Rim and Urbian, you're kind of just manipulating one deck of cards, and you're going through that deck of cards, and that serves as the time limit to accomplish some goal. With this, there are different phases of the game, and it resembles what do you call it, like a tower defense game. It's like Plants vs. Zombies, the card game. But there's also a drafting mechanism at the start, and a hand management that goes along with it. So there's kind of a lot of stuff. I'm going to kind of try and briefly go through each of those little sections and show you how the game works. At the start of the game, you're going to use these tree cards as a drafting mechanism. Up in the top right corner of each one of these cards is a number, and that'll basically be a column of cards that are going to be discarded. So you're going to be dealing these out, picking one. Alright, I want this one in my deck. Adding a new one, and then flipping over one of these cards from the pile, and discarding that pile. Oh, I gotta get rid of pile 2. I have no chance of picking this one. Which one do I want? Okay, I want this one now. And you keep going. This is going to let you customize your deck and make each playthrough of this different. And it's going to bring up some really interesting decisions just in the very first phase of the game. How do I set up my deck? Do I want lots of cards so that I can blow through some of them? Do I want only specifically this one card that I think is really good? Do I only want to go for the really strong fountains? Do I want some other options or not? I think that's a really neat use of these extra cards. It's a neat way to use these as something extra. The basic idea of Sylvion is going to be set up like this, using these tree cards and then the bad guy fire cards. The game is going to be played on kind of an imaginary board using grids of this. So basically there are 1, 2, 3, 4 kind of columns, and 1, 2, 3, 4 rows that the fire elements are going to come down, and then you're going to try and defend. Each time one of these elements, fire elements, gets to the end, if they bypass all of your defenses and run into this edge row, they're going to flip over the number of their strength that many trees. So in this case, I would have to flip over 3. 1, 2, 3. At the end of the game, once all of the cards in the fire element deck are exhausted, if you have a full company of trees, you win the game. Now, of course, if you lose some, how can you bring them back? Well, that's what these tree cards are for. These tree cards are special. They say, basically, at the end of the game, you're going to flip 4 trees back to health. So you can lose some, but still win the game. Of course, if you lose some and aren't able to replenish them at the end, you lose. Now, in addition, the other basic stuff is you're going to have tower cards, or these basically fountains, that can help defeat the the fire elements. Up in the top is how much they cost. So this one costs 2 cards. I have to discard 2 cards from my hand to play it. And it has a defense of 3. So if any fire elements run into it that are, let's see if I can find one real quick. So in this case, this is a 0. 0 would be destroyed by this fountain. It has 3 defense. This fire element has 0 attack. It would get killed. If it was a 3, I don't have one here. Where'd that go? If it was a 3, they would kill each other. And if somehow I managed to end up with one of these level 4, it would actually destroy my fountain and then keep going. So you have to choose when you're setting up your deck which cards that you need, which ones are going to be useful, and where you want to place them in this grid. Each turn you're going to draw a number of cards into your hand, and you have to use these cards both to be play and as the currency to play them. So in some cases, this little fountain costs 0, I could just play it, but then I'm running cards out of my hand, or I could spend 3 of my cards in my hand to get this level 4 fountain. That's a really strong one, and it's important to keep those safe because I'm basically costing 4 cards into my hand and I only have 1 left. So you have decisions to make. Which cards do I want in my deck? Which cards do I want to play? Which cards do I want to expend to bring these cards in? And then where do I want to place them on the board? It can become really intense really quickly as multiple things are happening. You have some of the fire cards do special things like move guys forward or increase the strength. So you're never quite exactly sure of what's going to happen either. Once you think you finally got that defense all set up, one of these special event cards comes out and everything changes. So finally, the last little thing kind of to talk about is in the enemy decks, there are some special event cards which help make you discard a card from your hand or discard 2 cards from your deck, that type of idea, out of the game for the entirety of the game. So as you play through, you start to whittle down that deck that you constructed. And after each time you go through the entire deck and need to reshuffle, you end up getting rid of some cards. And that can be good or bad. If you start off with a really small deck, you start to run out of cards or run out of options. If you start with a really big deck, it's helpful because you start to whittle down to only the cards that you really need. But still, maybe you don't have enough time to do that in the length of the game. So this kind of initial part, this drafting phase, one-player drafting that's going on in this game, really is integral to the whole game and is an important part, a big part of the the advanced game. Along with that, you have all these options, all these decisions to make about what's going on. I think it's a really, really fun game. There's just so much stuff going on, and it's significantly harder than Onirim to me. At least it feels that way. I never feel completely distraught with Onirim. Onirim has a good way of, at least you got 6 or 7 doors. In this game, sometimes I can just get run over with a couple random cards and suddenly I'm completely gone. Or other times I fight this epic struggle only to end up with one of the 4 still burned down and lose the game. But therein lies its kind of charm, that this is not an easy game. This is a fun, long-lasting solo player game that you're going to play for quite a few plays. So that's basically Sylvion. Again, I try not to go over every single rule that would seem to take too long. I just try and give you an idea of how to play it, and some things might be wrong here or there. One of those games I have to look at quite a bit because there's quite a bit of stuff going on about the timing of when cards flip over, when you discard cards, etc. But the idea is basically it is Plants vs. Zombies, the card game, and it worked really well, and it's really tense. Now, as always, a couple of my little criticisms, and don't take it as that because I actually love this game, and I love this designer's games. I think they're amazing and innovative, and I'm super excited for the new one, Sylvion, something like that, coming out as a tile-laying game. But one very small gripe is the little avatar, little token I got. The paint job has a little, like a hair glued to it, and there's some scratches on the back, and that's how it came. And that's not a big deal, but my Onirim character, one of the eyes is kind of scratched off and not perfectly centered on the skull. And I wouldn't even mind that, but it's just on both of them, it happens to be that way, so I question the kind of the production. That's just a little bit of a bummer, because I kind of want to put these out and just have them cool, and I just have these kind of little glaring problems staring at me all the time, which is a little bit of a bummer. But that, of course, has nothing to do with the game. Though my only big, I guess not even big, but concern is that this one takes up a lot of space. And I like this idea that they're putting all these games in this kind of neat, similar box, because they look great on the shelf all together, all of the Onirim Universe games. They look really cool in these same size boxes. But this game was just begging for like a play mat with a grid on it, a cool force, painted up something like this. It would have been amazing. And it would have gotten rid of the force cards around the outside. There could have been a little counter where this guy went along, 1 tree gone, 2 tree gone. It would have shrunk the play size and would have made it easier to pick up the cards, because I have a hard time picking them up off the table, once a a flame element runs into one of my towers, one of the fountains, and gets destroyed, you have to pick that up off the table. And it's because there's trees surrounding and the fire element's on the other side, you can't pull the card off anyway. If those tree cards weren't surrounding, kind of creating that grid, you could pull them off, just slide them off the table much easier, or off the playmat. But you can't do that with these because they're surrounded. Now, I have sometimes put the tree cards on the side just as a separate deck, and I flip them over as they get burned and put them back. But then you lose a little bit of the grid aspect, and sometimes I've been, oh shoot, was this guy one space forward or one space back? And that's my only critique. I think it would have been really cool. I think people would have definitely paid the extra money for a kind of nice playmat that had the Sylvion artwork on it and fit with all that, and it would have held a lot of this stuff kind of together really nicely. Aside from that, I think the game is amazingly fun. I think it's really cool. The idea is really neat, and it feels a lot like those video games that you may have played on the computer. The style, I think, is much more conducive. Things seem to make sense. I like that the cards don't have a bunch of text on them. You know, this picture, this really cool elephant just shows you kind of what it does. And like I said with my other ones, since this is a one-player game, I don't have an issue pulling out the rule book and reading what does this one mean if I don't know. Additionally, I think the things that are numbered on here are really cool. You have water, that how much it takes to feed that, basically, and then the little leaf is how strong it is. I get all of that from that. It's not obtrusive. It's really cool. I mean, even the little backs of them are really neat. So I think that's cool. I think the aspect's really cool. It seems quite difficult to me, the advanced game. I haven't quite figured out the exact combination or like ratios of cards you kind of need, and things, when they go bad, they can go really bad. That all of the elements one turn just get through. You flip over some of the advance all of them one extra space, and all of the elements get bumped up one strength. If that all happens in one turn, when you're not prepared for it with your hands, when you just had an expensive turn last time and didn't have many cards in your hand, things can go really bad really quickly, and you can lose very, very quickly. And I kind of wish also they had added a little, almost like Hanabi or some of these other cooperative player games, where even if you don't play the game perfectly, you still get some sense of a reward. That maybe I've only had 3 or less trees destroyed, but not all of them. Then you get Forest Defender, and if you had 4 or 5 destroyed, then you're this, and etc. So you don't get that feeling that if you don't save all the trees, that you didn't just absolutely lose the game. You did your best. You saved the forest. Not everyone died. That's not like inherent to the game, kind of. So I don't know. You could just make that up, but you kind of wish that it had a neat little addition to the rule book that this does this. Finally, the one last quick thing. There are a couple expansions in here. I haven't played with them. I have a hard enough time with just the regular cards. They add some more variation and some other animals that do things or betray you, I think. Do bad things, good things. That's neat. I really like that once you really feel like you've experienced the game completely, you can add some new stuff into it, build right into the game. I think that's a really cool thing that they've been doing with these. Like I said, if you're interested in these kind of games, if you like Shoddy Torby games, I'm sure you already have this and are excited for the new ones. I think these work great together, and I look forward to his new ones. Go to the store, check it out, bug them if they don't have it.